Good morning / afternoon / whenever it is that you're going to be listening to this. This is Snorkeling with Narwhals with your host, Brian McKay. So, this is our second ever episode. And so we're kind of trying to figure out on the fly how we're going to work this out. Because last time we did the introduction where we kind of just explained, I'm saying we, Eric is still behind the camera, but it was mainly just me, explaining what the show is going to be about. So I was like, well, we don't really have an intro segment then at this point. So what I've decided to do is just tell a little story to kind of, start this off. That'll be kind of, I think, how we start the show, except when we have guests, which now I'm just thinking out loud. But we talked last week on the first ever episode, beards and buses, that's what we ended up calling it. We talked about me shaving my beard, and as you can tell, I did in fact do that. It was a couple weeks ago because last week was spring break, but it has started to grow back. It actually started pretty quickly, and I'm not sure now what I'm going to do with it. As you may recall, I had said that this is really the only way I think I look any good, but I realized that I don't look too bad anymore with like a fresh face, a clean face. And I think I've reached the point where I'm old enough and mature enough that like I can pull that off. So I'm kind of considering doing it again. You'll be seeing the pictures come up here. I actually documented the process of me shaving, and there were three pictures. I had a horseshoe mustache, which most people usually call a Fu Manchu. It's actually a horseshoe mustache. I learned that from Rhett and Link's Good Mythical Morning, by the way. Shout out. That's actually kind of who I'm modeling this after. I had just a mustache, which it was not a good look. It's something I should not go with. And then I had just the clean face. So I wanted to see what it looked like at various stages that I would never actually keep. And I thought it was pretty fun. The horseshoe mustache, my cousin he commented that I looked metal, and that he was jealous because I don't think he can really grow any facial hair. And a lot of people are actually complimenting me on the clean-shaven face. Now, most of them were like older and or related to me. Why? It's never any people, like any girls that I would be interested in or that are around my age that comment on this. I'm like, come on, people, like, my face is clean, my face is maybe more attractive, I don't know, but that's kind of what I was hoping for. But today, we have a bunch of cool segments. We're going to be talking about my music collection, we're going to be talking about Downton Abbey, which usually does not fit the category of cool, and for you audio-only listeners, we're going to be talking about my spring break excursions. So, off with the show.
Recording on all fronts.
Alright. So, I have a music collection that's relatively large, and by relatively large, I mean 7,400 songs. Most of them I listen to predominantly Christian music, and people are sometimes shocked that I have that much music that's mostly Christian. I mean, some's not. I listen to Daughtry and Three Doors Down as well. They're pretty cool. But there are a lot of subgenres in Christian music that, you can find a lot to fit in a library. That's a separate talk for another episode. And what I'm about to tell you is it hinges on the fact that I buy my music, or, I get it as gifts. I don't download things from YouTube or anything like that. So bear that in mind while I'm telling you what I'm going to be doing, or what happened to me. So a couple weeks ago, I have a music player that it'll level the audio of your tracks, and what that means is it'll set them all to the same like decibel level, which it was useful for me when I used to host radio shows here at Barron, because I wouldn't have to finagle with the sliders on the board here. If you want to look at the fun board, I wouldn't have to mess with it. It would, when I was playing music, it would all just be on the same level. So I just now, as a tendency, as a habit, I fix all my music so it's at the same level, and it was at a good level. It was kind of low, but I could always turn it up when I was listening to it. And I wanted to make it higher, so I raised it like 9 decibels. And the problem with this media player is that it irreversibly modifies a track and it tells you that, and so you have to hit OK when you go to level it. And so I did that, and I didn't really think anything about it, except that when I was listening to them, they didn't all sound like they were at the same level. So I put them back down at the original one that I'd had them. And I realized, like, last week that I had messed up, like, my entire music library. What I did, when I raised the decibel levels on them, I had raised them too high, and so they had peaked. They were super loud. And a lot of them, they had peaked too high, and it was distorting the sound, and it was all muffled, and everything with it was messed up. And so I was like, oh, no, that's not good, especially because that was the version of my library that I copied over to the micro SD card on my phone. And so I was like, this isn't good. I don't have another copy of my library intact that I can mess with and, like, return it to normal. And so I was freaking out until I realized that I do have an SD card in my Kindle. And I was like, that's perfect, because I had most of the music on there before I had messed it up. I mean, there were a few things that I had added later that I would have to replace, like most things I downloaded from iTunes or Amazon, so I could do that. And I was like, this is awesome. I can fix it. It'll be fine. Most of the stuff was on there because my Kindle is stupid and likes to wipe the SD card's music. And so it had apparently started to do that, but had not gotten far enough to get rid of most of it. And so I was able to restore like 5/7 of it that way. So then what I did, I was going through iTunes and Amazon, like, to find what I needed. I was going through my downloads because a lot of stuff was in zipped folders and figuring out what was in there. I had a spreadsheet, like, with, like, green and red, like, so it was synced up so I knew what I needed. But then I was looking in my recycle bin, and I had another zipped folder that had a good chunk of my library. This was from a past time like a year ago, and Eric was laughing because I still had stuff in my recycle bin from a year ago that I had yet to clear out. It's because I'm absent-minded, but like sometimes organized when it comes to this. So I had started to move my library, and I wanted to make it smaller by compressing it so I could upload it online, except when I compressed it, it was still like huge. So there was stuff in my recycle bin, and I was like, all right, most of this is fine. I ended up only losing 24 songs that were, like, too distorted. Even some of the ones that had peaked were not bad. They were just loud, and it was fine, because I can put them back down. They had yet to distort their sound. So, what I have learned from this, I'm still doing this at home, by the way. I'm still working on it. All the music is back, except the certain ones that I have to buy again. Everything is back in my library. Now I'm just reorganizing it and making it look beautiful again. But it was insane. And basically what I've learned from this is that I need to back this up like a million times. I'm going to back it up on 264 gig SD cards that I have them. Like, that's where I had them both stored originally. I just bought a 128 gig. That's what's going to be going in my phone. I want to put a copy on the cloud, a copy on my on my laptop. I want to compress a folder and put it somewhere on my laptop. And then I said that I need to just make a copy of it somewhere and like stick it on my laptop and like forget about it, so that if I somehow like were to delete every single copy of my library, it would still be there and somewhere. I would just have to find it somewhere. So never make a music library without like a good backup. And if you're about to change something with it, like make sure it's backed up before you change anything. So that's all I really know about my music collection. I like to sometimes work on that while I'm watching TV, which one of the things I love to watch is Downton Abbey, which we will talk about next. Boom, transitions. A show that recently ended, at least here in America, is Downton Abbey. Now, for those who don't know what the show is, it's basically about British, like, super rich people in the 1900s and their lives. And it takes place in a 10-year period. They time jump a lot, which is kind of weird. I don't like that. But it takes place over a 10-year period, and it's just about how their lives are going with, like, the times. I tried not to like this show at all. For some reason, my dad decided one year to start watching it, and so we started watching it on Amazon Prime, and I tried so hard. The only thing I liked about it was Maggie Smith. You know, most people probably know Maggie Smith from the Harry Potter movies. She is like the coolest person in the world on that show. She just plays this she's like the main, they call her the Dowager Countess, which means she is like her husband was the Lord and now he's dead, so she's kind of just like off to the side, but she still interacts with everyone.
Is she Professor McGonagall?
She is Professor McGonagall.
Okay.
this is the first. This is a first. Eric has now he has spoken on air. So yes. Yeah. So she is really funny. She's really sarcastic, and some of the things she says are just like huge burns on people. So she, for the longest time, was the only thing I liked about this show, and it's basically a soap opera. And the problem with soap operas, and this happened to me with the WWE, because that is like a violent soap opera, is that you just get hooked. Like, you get hooked on the characters and on the situations that are happening. And, like, I tried. I did not want to like Downton Abbey at all. But I became, like, I don't want to say obsessed, but I did actually start to care about the people on the show. And I was bad. I'm one of those people who I don't really care about spoilers unless it's something huge. I accidentally spoiled the new Star Wars for myself, and I wanted to cry when I did. But for the most part, I went on Wikipedia and I just read the summaries for every episode of Downton Abbey up to that point, and so I knew what was happening before it would happen on the show, but it didn't like ruin the enjoyment that I had from it. It actually helped for some reason, and I don't understand why. So then the new seasons were starting to air as, we watched the first 3 on Prime, and then season 4 was out, and then season 5 came out. So the funny thing is that these shows air first in the UK, and so people were putting spoilers on Wikipedia before it had aired in America, and so I'm reading about what's happening on this show before we can even watch it. And that was cracking me up because I'm sitting there and my parents, my sister are like, don't tell me, like, you know what happens, don't you? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, don't tell me. But then they're like, does this happen? Don't tell me. And so there it is again, the interjection of the year apparently for me. And so I started to get hooked on this show, and we would watch it. And season 6 just finished, which was the final season. We watched the series finale last week. It was wonderful. Like, it ended perfectly, and now I'm kind of sad. And I'm like, every year they should just do a special. Because that way you don't have to commit to a whole season. Like, these actors don't have to do that, but you're still, like, this is what's happening to the characters after the show is ended. And I think that would be awesome. And, throughout the show, this isn't really a spoiler. I think this is common knowledge now. People get married, people die. There was a particularly brutal season. It was season 3. Like, a bunch of main characters died, but it was just because they wanted to leave the show, the actors. So, they had to write them out somehow. It's a good show, and it's one of the only shows I can say I've watched fully through its entire run. Like, I can't binge watch things. I tried. I started to watch a show, and I got through the first season just because it was 6 episodes. That's as far as I could get, and they were all like 22 minutes. That's the only reason I did that. So we were watching this on TV, and that's more my speed. That's more my forte. But no, that was it. Downton Abbey. It got me. I never cried. There were times it made me emotional though, but it was such a good show. Anyway. For you audio-only listeners, we're going to be talking about my spring break now, and it wasn't as exciting as that sounds. And if you're not, we're going to be going to the ending segment, so stay tuned. La, 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 la.
I thought you were singing the Doug theme song when you originally did that.
So we have reached the end of today's show, and we are introducing a new segment which requires us to, I guess it doesn't require, but it is bringing the return of producer Eric, and it is called What Did We Learn? Now this is probably a common thing among shows, but we thought about it while we were recording today's show. So Eric, what did we learn today? I know that I learned, 1, make sure that my music library is backed up, 2, Downton Abbey is far too addicting, and 3, of course, the best segment that we recorded was the audio-only one, and the video is the best part of it, and that's not what's going to be going out for a while. So what did you learn?
I learned that Professor McGonagall is in Downton Abbey. I learned also that making a podcast is... I don't know anything about how to do it. And we make it up as we go.
We do. We're just figuring this out as we go.
And I learned Brian eats a lot of sugar.
That is true. I definitely do. I actually need to watch out because I was a fat baby, so they said I'm like a prime target for diabetes.
Ooh.
So I do need to watch that. I actually had a Diet Mountain Dew today.
It's spring break, baby.
Spring break, that's my splurge. I had a Diet Mountain Dew. It supposedly doesn't have real sugar in it. I don't know if your body realizes that, though.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know.
what, the fake sugar as opposed to real
Yeah.
sugar?
I don't know. Well, anyway. Social media. If you want to find us, we are now on Facebook officially at facebook.com/snorkeling with narwhals. You could probably just Google or Facebook search Snorkeling with Narwhals. Twitter at Snorkel Narwhals. YouTube. We have a channel now. It is Snorkeling with Narwhals. You can find our first episode there, and anything else we decide to put on there. iTunes. Snorkeling with Narwhals. It's the audio-only podcast. Or you can subscribe manually at btmckay.com/webfeed.xml. We will put that on there at some point on the screen. Our website, again, btmckay.com. You can find everything there, too. Next week, we are supposed to have a guest host, my good friend Ronnie. We will be trying this 2-host set. We'll see how it goes. I mean, you know, I'm used to mostly having co-hosts on my radio shows, so I don't think it'll be too big of a difference, but I think it'll be fun. So anyway, good morning, good afternoon. How perfect was that? Good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're listening to this or watching it. Have a good day, everyone. But yes, Maggie Smith is like the funniest thing ever on that show. And I was like, she's perfect on there.
I bet she is.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of everything she's in.
Mm-hmm.
She's just
she's
dignified,
she's
and classy.
perfect. Yeah, she's
funny,
awesome.
Sarcastic but lovable.
That's exactly how she is on that show. So, you're whistling. All right, that's definitely going in here.